Being in the German healthcare space, what you need most of all is resilience and tenacity, so that they can actually spend time treating the patient and not fighting with their software. Who's got 2 weeks to shut down their practice and learn how to use a new software? Starting from zero, it's a lot of work. I think giving people this flexibility is really essential. It's like riding a bike. You never completely forget, but you're not as fit as you were when you were 20.
Hi, we're back with our digital health interview series, and before we start, I'd like you to subscribe to our channel, share this video and other videos with anyone who might be interested in digital health and thinking of creating or already in the process of creating a startup in digital health. And also, I would like to say that if you hear last news about Ukraine right now, that doesn't mean the war has stopped. So I encourage you to continue to support Ukraine in any possible way. And now I'd like to introduce our today's guest. His name is Godau. Hi, Jörg.
Hi.
Let's start with your short introduction. And besides that, I wanted to ask if you got involved in digital health by the matter of choice or by accident.
Okay. Yeah, so my name is Jörg, but I lived in Australia for 30 years, so that's why I've also changed and go by Jack in the English-speaking world. It makes it a little bit easier. I've been back in Berlin since 2006 now, and I started work in Berlin with a company that was doing government projects around kindergartens and schools. After I worked there for 14 years at this company doing a variety of different things, I decided to move on, and I'd started already doing healthcare projects there. So when I was there, I helped to build the German transplant registry. So all of the transplants that happen in Germany, they get tracked, obviously, so that people can know that nothing bad is happening, and that it's very clear why are people getting which organs as donations. So we built that, and that was kind of my first healthcare project, or one of my first healthcare projects. I moved on to a big healthcare company, one of the biggest in Germany and in Europe, which makes software for doctors and hospitals and places like this. But that's like a 5,000 developer kind of company. And I found that the bureaucracy and the other things in there and the way that you were not allowed to work together between different parts of the organization didn't really fit with me. So then I moved on to Doctorly at the start of 2021, so a year and a half ago roughly. And there we're now building specifically software for doctors. So it's been a progression. And for me, while I use all of these HelloFresh and Delivery Hero and all of these things and Uber, for me, doing something that's very valuable for society was something that's always kind of important for me, whether it was kindergarten, schools, healthcare. So having something with real tangible value. So that was something where it was kind of a conscious choice, but something that I originally kind of slipped into and now have really grown to say, yes, I want to do this.
And you've did a lot of software development on your own before, right?
Yeah, so I started writing software when I was 10. Mm-hmm. I remember my first computer had a cassette, which you would have to rewind. And programs came in text in a magazine and you would type them. So this is where I started way, way, way back. Mm-hmm. So I've always had an affinity for computers and electronics. And so I'd spent a long time as a software developer and as a software architect and as a consultant before eventually becoming leadership level, organizing software development teams, running projects, that kind of thing. So it's been a progression over time to get from individual contributor to being in charge of groups of people.
Do you miss writing code?
Yes and no. And sometimes I still do. Mm-hmm. Just now I do it quite badly because I don't do it all the time. It's like riding a bike. You never completely forget, but you're not as fit as you were when you were 20. So I used to be a very good software developer. Now I can make things happen, but you need to be up to date with the newest frameworks, libraries, technologies. It's not something that just comes. I can write simple stuff quite easily, but if it's complicated or if it's any of the newer technologies that I haven't learned, then it does take me a while to get back into it.
So the question I have is, if you want to be a software development in digital health specifically, do you need to have some specific skill set and experience in order to do that?
Being in the German healthcare space, what you need most of all is resilience and tenacity. Germany is incredibly highly regulated, so you need all kinds of certificates for your software and for your processes, and you need all of these kind of things, which is outside of the software development. As a developer in this space, you just need to be a good software developer. You can work anywhere. If you want to do it organizationally, then is where the organizational nightmare of regulations and certifications and things like this begins.
I see. But when you start screening the list of resumes recruiters send to you, what do you try to check? What is the most important for you to see if this candidate should be appropriate for your organization?
So when we're looking at resumes, obviously they have to know the technology that we're using. So whether it's .NET or Java or React or whatever, they have to know that core technology that we're employing them for. Mm-hmm. This is you can't get a carpenter to come and do your plumbing. They can, but it may not work out well. So there's that. And other than that, I look for people who take ownership, for people who actually are proud of the things they do, people who have, if they've got their own projects on the side, if they've got something else going on, those are the kind of people that I find are really strong because they're obviously passionate about it. And passion counts for things a lot. You have to be good at what you do, but if you're passionate about it, you're more likely to be good at it. There's that, and then further in the process, do they fit well into the team? This is really essential because over the years as an engineering leader, people can learn how to code. If they generally know technology and can generally work, they'll be able to learn coding in a different way or a different language or a different process. They won't be able to change who they are fundamentally. And having people who like each other, who fit well together, who can communicate really well, that's more important than the finest technical level of detail.
Let's talk a little bit about Doctorly. Could you please tell what the product does and what kind of problem it solves?
So Doctorly as an organization was created by our founders. What they did, they wrote on a whiteboard, what did they want to do? They wanted to enable everyone to live a healthier life. That was literally, they wrote that down. They're like, okay, how can we do this? Do we do it through education? Do we do it through healthcare? What are the problems that exist? And they decided on healthcare because in Germany and other parts of the world, healthcare is very paper-based. I got a folder like this of all of my medical records. I'm a heavy user of the healthcare system. And I have to take the papers from one doctor to another. Patients in Germany have effectively become data mules. You go to one doctor, he sends you to another with a bit of paper backwards and forwards. Okay, it's the modern world. We can do this differently. We can do this better. So their original idea was to build this integration, this pipes, this framework for data to flow between places. Once they started looking at that, they realized very quickly that's not going to work because the software that the doctors are using in their offices is still basically coming from the 90s, from the 2000s. If you imagine Minesweeper from Windows 95, gray with the bevels and the buttons, you push the wrong one, it explodes. That's what doctors are using here today in Germany. Really old school stuff. It's installed in their office. It runs there physically. They get sent updates, which they have to install themselves. They're forced to become IT people. So we realized if we want to build this plumbing and this framework to transfer data, we're going to have to build a good tap to get the water out to start with. So that's when we decided to build practice management software. And that's the core product that Doctorly offers at the moment. It's practice management software for doctors. So everything you need to run your doctor's office. Appointments, scheduling, patient records, prescriptions, diagnosis, medications, all of the things, services, billing, all of the things you need to run it. That's hard because MVP is all of it. You can't have just a software that just does prescriptions. No doctor will ever use it. So it took a long time to get to this point where we're out in the market. We've been out in the market now since the end of last year. And we deliver software as a service, so it's fully cloud-based. We do all the updates. We worry about the backups. The doctor just uses it. They can use it from their laptop at home or from their office. So they're given a lot more flexibility, and they've stopped having to care so much about the IT. Plus, it actually looks like software and behaves like software from today, which is a big difference to some of these older things that have been built and built and built over the years.
Are the doctors entrepreneurs that are using the system, or the ones that are in the public hospitals, they're using it too?
No, it's not for hospitals. It's only for doctors. So it's something that runs in a doctor's office. Mm-hmm. So 1, 2, 3 doctors and a couple of staff who have their own office and their own practice where they see their patients. So can be GPs or can be also specialists doing stuff in that kind of single or group practice setup.
Got it. So if I understand correctly, there is no real technical innovation in the product, but it's a good product that solves a specific problem, and that's why people are using it.
The technical innovation is delivering it as a software as a service. So this is something that's very, very new in Germany. 95% of practices in Germany use software that runs physically in their office. And if you imagine, the doctor has to do backups onto an external hard drive and take them home. The doctor has to install updates. If the doctor's staff member pushes update now at the wrong time, the practice can't work for 3 hours, right? So this level of headache for the doctors is very hard. And the fact that the software they have now was built over so many years, always adding another bit on, it's not a consistent picture necessarily. And it's very, very complicated. So we've taken something that's very complicated and made it a lot easier to use. So normally in our training sessions, they get 2 hours of training. After 1 hour, they can use the system independently and can do all of the things that they need to do. And they know about prescriptions and all of these things already, so they just need to do it in a different software. I've heard salespeople from other providers saying, it'll only take you 2 weeks to learn how to use the new software. Who's got 2 weeks to shut down their practice and learn how to use a new software? How is this supposed to work? So with us, it's very easy onboarding, very easy to use, and they get constant updates, constant backups, and really good support, which is something they're also not used to.
Like you said, easy to use. I assume that for a product like this, UX is super important. How do you validate it?
So we work very closely with our partner practices. So we have a large group of partner practices. They were already our partners before we launched, and they're still our partners, and some of them are our first users live as well, where we would actually go to the doctor's offices and sit with them and watch how do they work, what are they doing, how are they doing it. And we would build the flows together with them. We have a very strong customer support at the moment too, and our product owners go to the doctor's offices. Our UX designers go to the doctor's offices and sit with them, sit with the doctors and sit with the staff in the doctor's offices to really understand, what do they need and how do they want it to be? And then also we take the feedback that comes from them, from customer support, and from our own internal ideas, from our developers and from our ideas, what do we think would be good to build? Put that together, prioritize it, and then roll out the features. So we're rolling out new features every couple of weeks.
How big is the roadmap?
Endless. So this is the difference between a project and a product, right? Products are endless. So this should go on. Will it change over time? Will we get a new design at some point or change the color? Of course we will.
But I mean,
but it's never finished.
Do you do the roadmap planning for, next 3 months, 6 months, and maybe then change it or no?
So we've got a roadmap plan where we know kind of very exactly what's coming this quarter, more exactly what's coming next quarter, and then just kind of what are the things that we still want to build. And this is also then determined by conversations that we have with our partners, with our doctors, with our salespeople, with our customer support people, and that changes, obviously. So nothing's set in stone. Some of the things that are set in stone are the regulatory updates. So you have to do updates every quarter for a new list of diagnoses, or the government regulations on how you prescribe certain things change. So obviously you have to do those at the right times, but that's not a huge part of our work. the biggest part is trying to make the work of the doctor more effective so that they can actually spend time treating the patient and not fighting with their software. So that's the idea. Good user flows, making it quick, making it easy, and taking the pain out so they can spend time actually treating the people who are sitting in front of them.
Okay. Does the technological stack really matter for such a solution? Like, doesn't matter is either there's Java or PHP or .NET on the backend, or not really?
I think within a certain class of technologies, so you need things that are robust enough, that have the right abilities. Like, I don't think I'd write this in PHP. There's nothing wrong with PHP, but it's not the right solution for software as a service for doctors doing enterprise-grade software. So we have a .NET backend, we have a React frontend. Part of the choices around the technology were what's good and stable. And I've done bleeding edge projects in my life before. I've got the scars. I can prove it, right? Like, but this is not suitable for something that has to work all the time. So you need that stability and you need that maturity of technology. It also gives you the ability to hire. So that was one of the choices that we made when we chose front-end technologies. What do we use, which allows us the flexibility to build a great UX, but also gives us the ability to hire great people. And that was a big consideration. Stable technology, but also staffing is a huge concern.
Your position is Chief Digital Officer. Who is Chief Digital Officer? Can you explain?
So, Chief Digital Officer, one of our founders has the CTO title. And he offered it to me when I started, and I said, look, I don't want to take it away from you, because what for? Like, it's just like, well, I'm not interested in like the specific title. I'm interested in the work that I do. I need a C-level title to make the decisions and to have the authority. Mm-hmm. And I've done a lot of stuff in the digital space before, so Chief Digital Officer was a completely acceptable title. My responsibilities include all of the software technology stuff, so cloud, architecture, DevOps, Scrum Masters, all of this stuff. But they go a little bit beyond that because I also spend some time talking to the regulators. I spend some time on security and privacy, which is stuff that I've done a lot before. So it is a little bit broader than just technical, and that's why this role, like this title, was appropriate.
What are the main challenges you have at your position?
Big challenges that I think myself and anybody in my position has is finding the right people. Staffing is a huge challenge, so we put a lot of effort into recruiting, into onboarding, and that's something that's really, really important, having the right people, the right mentality. And as a startup, it's different, right? Like, I've worked at IBM, it's different to working in a startup, and you have to find people who have the right mentality. And we're also very much looking for people who are interested in doing something meaningful, interested in healthcare or like meaningful like value propositions. So this is something that's probably one of the biggest challenges. The other challenge that we face is the regulatory side. How do you balance this, like the German regulations, with building great software? Because some of these regulations say it has to be a checkbox. It has to be pink. It has to be over here. Like, they literally dictate how your software should look, but they're built for systems from 20 years ago. There's a certification that you have to pass where one of the tests, they say, oh, like, now set the time back to this and this date and then show us how an update happens. And like, I can't do that. Like, it's not possible because our software runs in the cloud. I can't like tell all of Amazon cloud to go into the past or all of like Deutsche Telekom cloud to be at a different date. It's simply no longer viable. So there's a bit of being out of touch, and fighting with these arguments, they're also like quite challenging.
I know that you also dedicate quite a lot of time to building create a culture and promote values at your team. First of all, it's kind of rare when a tech person is responsible for that. You know, there's like other positions that usually do that. Why do you think this is so important?
For me, this has always been important. So it was important to me personally to be in a place where I worked that had good values, that supported its staff. As I said, I've also I'm a heavy user of the healthcare system, so I know what it's like to have like problems. I have 2 kids, that I have to look after when my wife is away traveling. So these situations put me in a position where I have a bit more empathy maybe for other people. And sometimes this is not the case. You get organizations where sometimes there's a very young founding team, startup, they're able to work 40 hours a day, or it feels like it. They're passionate about it, they love it, they drive it, but that doesn't work for everybody. And having people in the organization who are a bit older, who've seen a bit more things, have a bit more experience, really does help to give the organization this power and this focus. When I started at Doctorly, we had 20 people. We didn't have a HR person. Like, HR just happened. Right now we have some HR, we have some talent acquisition, but this is part of the startup. You have to take responsibility for all of the things. And if you're passionate about it, then you can do it. One of the things that was great about Doctorly, though, is the founders themselves are passionate about values, about career development, and they see this and they wanted this. And this is one of the reasons I was very happy to join there, is they already had this feeling. It wasn't like I came in and said, oh, we need to talk about culture. They already had it. And that for me was already surprising when I came in, and then to be able to run with that and expand on it, it was really actually good.
Very cool. Right now, most of the employees are working in the office or remotely?
We run a very hybrid model. So we have an office here in Berlin. Mm-hmm. We have a core of people who live in and around Berlin. We also have people throughout Germany, throughout Europe, Poland, Romania. We have people elsewhere. We have people in Lebanon. And I've opened our own development hub in South Africa. The people in South Africa, theoretically, there's an office in Cape Town, but nobody actually really uses that. They all live spread out in South Africa. And once we went to this remote model, and obviously COVID pushed everybody, but we found that really opened a lot of doors for us, and nothing suffered as a result. And why would I make people in Berlin come to the office to have a video call with somebody in Lebanon or South Africa? What useful reason would that be? So we get together for events, and we've had events in South Africa and here in Berlin to like really do this team building and get to know people. But otherwise, it's the people are free to choose. Do they want to come into the office? Do they want to work from home? And basically, we trust our staff to make the right decisions. If there are things that are long, complicated conversations, yes, maybe it's easier to go into the office and have that with a group of 2 or 3 people for that day. But if you're capable of doing your work from somewhere else, why should you have to go in? There's no reason.
You talk in other interviews and streams a lot about future of work. Could you elaborate? How do you imagine future work?
I think this flexibility that we're talking about, so this like hybrid, and there's been this push to, will we go fully remote or will we go back to the office? I think giving people this flexibility is really essential. And I travel a lot with my family, and so we sometimes go on holiday where I'll spend more time in a different country, and part of that I'll just work from there, but still get to enjoy the beach in the mornings and the evenings. I've got some of my employees now are in different countries. They're still working during the day, but they're able to like enjoy this flexibility and travel around. These days, with the internet being really good, that's part of it. Culture is part of it, where organizations really focus on like how can we make work great for the time that you spend there. And most adults spend around about 8 hours on a weekday at work. This is a lot of our lives that we spend working. And making that experience great, making the team great, enabling those people to do great work, I think is a big shift to like forcing people to be at a desk at a certain time, wearing a certain outfit. And I think this is something where the older, more traditional companies are really missing out, which I'm grateful for because that means I have access to some of their people. So I think those things, culture, flexibility, and enablement of the team, I think those are the key things that we're going to see in the future of work.
Interesting. You also spend part of your time mentoring other, I assume, CTO startup founders. What's your motivation? Do you want to share your knowledge and experience?
I want to share things, and I've been helped by people to get to where I am. Like, I didn't just magically fall out of the sky fully formed, right? So these experiences with other people and the things that I've learned from them it became important to me to share that with others and to talk about things and to help people think about things in this way. It was also the Mentoring Club. This was an initiative that was started by a couple of other people from Berlin here during COVID, where they're like, we're all sitting around at home, we're all like alone effectively. How can we, like, what's something that we can do? And it's pretty lightweight. Like, you know, you sign up, you provide a profile, you provide some times, and people can just register and talk to you. And whether I spend 1 or 2 more hours in a video call a week, it's no real big difference. But you do get to meet some very interesting people. And it's also valuable for me in terms of getting this, like, you know, meeting people and like talking to people. Because all of the meetups closed during COVID, all of this like normal like interaction you have on a tech and leadership level, it stopped. So this was a way to get it back. And it's something that I like also very much enjoy, you know, hearing people's stories, understanding what they're doing, and I've made some like really great friendships through these initiatives as well.
Have you ever thought about creating your own startup?
It's funny you should say that. When I left the company that I was for a long time at, when I left Schütze, I left with the intention of starting my own company. It was around Christmas 2019. I said, right, let's do this. So I founded my own company. It's called VR Consulting. It still exists. It went really well for about 3 months until March 2020, when everything just died. And, you know, as a small business with no track record, it was impossible to get anywhere. So I'd done it, but then it didn't work out. And then I looked for other things where I could, you know, provide value. And that's why I went into the healthcare industry again and ended up at Doctorly, because it was something that I really enjoyed. And this, being at Doctorly, gives me the opportunity to really grow something and help it develop without the heavy lifting of starting from zero. So you're coming in at a certain level, there's funding, there's founders, there's a team, there's other people to work with already. Starting from zero, it's a lot of work. Am I saying I'll never do it? No, but for the time being, this is like a really good thing for me to be at an organization and help them to get to the next level and really professionalize and do great things without having to build everything from scratch.
At the very end, we ask our guests to give some kind of recommendations to startup founders or C-level in digital health specifically. Maybe you can think of something that can help someone succeed.
So things that I see commonly in this area is people come with really great ideas, and they start to put those together, and they have a team that's good and everything's going well, but they wait too long to bring on people with experience and seniority. So this is common, and it's also like, you know, people with experience and seniority, they take budget. You know, you have to have the money to enable that, but you can support that also with ESOP programs, and there are other ways to incentivize people. But if you wait too long, then you can often end up building in a direction, and you have this whole tree, like, or this whole house built, where really, like, you should have built something slightly differently. So if you wait too long without getting experience, whether it's even just an experienced developer, you don't need a CTO necessarily, but you need somebody who really knows, is this the right technology to build this in? And can they then grow that team? So you see it also quite often. You have startups who have people who are great technologists, but not very nice people. And that won't work. It'll work for like 5 people. It won't work for 50. So you have to really focus on having the right skills, both from a technology side and also from a people side. You need people who can sell the vision, who can sell the ideas, not just to the investors, but also to the developers and the product team and the other people who you might be integrating with in the rest of the software community. So that's something where I would say, like, think about where you're at and think about what do you really need, what are the problems, and don't wait until it becomes a problem, but try and focus on that as early as you can afford.
Thank you. I think this is important, and thank you for the interview. We're gonna leave the link to the Mentor Club, it's called, and you can sign up for mentoring hour? Is it an
Yeah,
hour? 30 minutes?
it's now, and it's not just me. There's like 500 mentors on there by now, I think. So there's a lot of diversity, lots of different profiles. So highly recommended. If you leave the link to the Doctorly website too, if people are looking for jobs, they can always reach out. If there's a job that they have that they're looking for that's not listed, people can just reach out anyway. So very happy to hear from everybody.
Thank you, and take care.
Thank you.